by day. So there's 4 of us up here. If you guys don't know, this is Justin, Vanessa, Amanda. She's been hiding from me. She's been hiding from me with the children in the back. Another one of the reasons why we're talking about what we're talking about, right? But before we jump in today, one of the things I want to get out here is from the beginning. Even Jeremy and I remember when we were driving going by. There's what's the building now on Edinger and Golden West? Is it a home store?
It's a living space.
Living Spaces. Okay. So for years, that huge building was open. Not open. It was just vacant. Nobody was there. And he and I, we drove by there, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have a space like that where we could have a dream center? And Dream Center, and we're going to plan a trip to the Dream Center too, so you guys can experience what that is. I think we need one here in Orange County. I think we are going to do it, and I know it's going to start small, like everything does, but it's going to grow into something. But this last week, I was at a pastor's meeting, and one of the pastors said there's a church building. It's a very small congregation. They own their property, but they can't find a pastor who wants to pastor there and take over it, and it's local. And I was like, I don't want a church building to do church in. But I talked to this guy. I said, hey, give me his phone number because I want to pray that maybe we can get this type of space. Maybe God's opening a door for us so that we can have Melissa's ministry in there and Royal Family Kids Camp, so Speak Life. And I mean, we're getting to that stage where it'd be really cool to have all these things together where we're coming in and out and we're training volunteers. And I think it could be a very useful space to us. So I want to throw that out to you guys. Be praying about that. It's probably not going to happen. It's along denominational lines, and I'm not a pastor of that denomination, so I don't even know how that might work out. But I did say this. I think I said this last week. I think if God's people come together, God's church comes together, we can do amazing things. And if that building is just going to sit vacant, why wouldn't God want to use that for something that's trying to bring life to people and trying to create new ministry to rescue people and restore people? So I want you guys just to be praying about that. I'm not going to give any specifics out just because it's in the preliminary stages. So please be praying about that. Now, before we kick off today, I want to read one of my favorite verses. Bart's going to put it on the screen here. It's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 19 through 27. This is Paul writing. Paul's responsible for a lot of, God and Paul was responsible for the church, going around church planting everywhere throughout the ancient world. He went from town to town and got people together and told them the gospel, and they gave their lives to Christ, and then these churches sprung up in different places. And I love this scripture because Paul is teaching us about what God people look like, what it looks like to be God people, what we're supposed to be involved in. He says this in chapter 9, verses 19 through 27. For though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. Win who? People who were lost. To the Jews, I became as a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law, I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law, I became as one outside the law, not being outside the law of God, but under the law of Christ. We'll talk about that in a different message. That I might win those outside the law. Verse 22, to the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might win some. I might win. I can't win all of them. We're not going to win. I love this. We're not going to win everybody. But we're going to become all things to all people, that we might win some as God's Holy Spirit is impressing on their lives. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings. Do you not know that in the race all runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you might obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air. I don't shadow box. I don't waste my time doing that. But I discipline. I want you to hear this. Verse 27, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. What's Paul saying? He said, I am disciplining this body, this flesh that wants to do who knows what. Our minds could run rampant, right? But he's saying, I discipline my body, my flesh, to do what's most important. And I'm everything to all people that we might win some people. And I think that is a good way to kick this off, because that's what we're doing here. That's what we're about. So last week, to recap, I talked about decentralizing. Like, this is our church. I was on Facebook this week, and we were chatting about, a few of us were chatting, and somebody said, that's why I love your church. And I said, no, correction, our church, because this is your church. I told you last week, I'm trying to work myself out of a job and give responsibility away to you guys. In a book called It's Your Ship, Michael Abrashoff, he writes this: show me an organization in which employees take ownership, and I will show you one that beats its competition. And I say this: show me a church whose members take ownership of a church, and I'll show you a church that reaches the world. Because when you guys take ownership, it's going to be amazing, because I've seen it. We've seen you guys take ownership, and it's been amazing. So the more of you that do that, the more amazing it's going to be. So this week we have a few people up here talking about, we're going to run through a couple of topics: culture and ethos, inviting people, the culture we're trying to build in here, what we do with new guests, the experience for them, social media, how we're supposed to advertise this great thing that we found, this thing that we love. People drove 4 hours to go camp together with complete strangers in some cases. But it was fun, and we had a great time, and we want more people to experience things like that, because we know that God uses those moments to reach people. So in kicking this off, I'm going to turn over the microphone, and I'm going to let them talk quite a bit here. But we're going to talk about the culture here at Activate Church, and our ethos. Like, what are we all about? Like when Paul said, I've become all things to all men. What are we about here? So one of you guys pick it up. Or I'll keep talking.
Okay, you know our culture. Surely, hopefully, you know our culture. We bleed our culture. We talk about our culture constantly. Our beliefs are behind us, our core beliefs right here. If you haven't stopped and really looked at them, read them. We really try to follow these core beliefs on all of the decisions that we make. This is what drives us. If you get a no from us, it's because it wasn't driven by these back here. But hopefully, when you've been here a time or two, or even 20 at this point, or for a couple of years for some of you, you can bleed the culture too. And that's what we want. We want it to soak down deep inside, so that your actions, your Christ love, is showing that culture. That we can invite people back to be a part of our culture. That we can send people out to be a part of that culture, because we feel like that is what God has called this church and this family to do. So Bart and I were trying to figure it out, and I think we've been in this facility for 4.5 years.
September 16th.
Okay, so 3.5. No, we launched in Easter.
No, we launched in September. It was just September. We were working out our kinks in April.
Okay, so we did a soft launch in Easter.
Yeah.
We
September
did.
20th.
And then we did the hard launch in September.
Yeah.
So we're at 3.5 years.
5 days away from 4 years.
Yeah, 5 days away from 4 years.
16.
That's amazing, right? That's amazing that we've built the 10 of us to what we're looking at now, and then we can say that there's probably a good 100 people that we could bring in together. But it's been a slow process of that culture that Activate is a part of. So let me ask you, when we say culture, just to get some feedback from the audience, just spout out some terms, phrases, or what you feel that our culture is.
Serving, that's a good one.
What else? Acceptance. Love. Do you feel like we love people well, or we try really hard? We're not 100% best at it, but we're going to give it a really good effort. Anything else? I'm sorry?
Getting fed.
Getting fed.
Word, yeah.
Yeah, with the word.
Growing things change. One of our culture, yeah.
Growing things change.
Part of our culture is that growing things change it.
Giving. Unselfish.
Family.
If these are key words that you're like, this is what I want my faith to be about, you're in the right place. If you hear these words from people in our audience and you're like, that's the kind of culture that I want to be about, this is where I belong, then you're in the right place, and it's time to go to the next step.
Yeah, I'll say
next
this.
level.
When we launched the church, I like baking, and I really love sourdough bread. Sourdough, though, you start with a starter. It's just a little bit. It's a tiny bit. The cool thing with the sourdough, or Amanda does friendship bread, and she'll give everybody some at Christmas time. Yep. The reality is you have just this culture of friendship bread or sourdough. It's a culture, and you can add, the great thing is once you get that right, once it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, once it has all the ingredients and the chemical balance and all that, whenever it has what it is, you can add water and flour to it, and it just makes more. And you can add more and more. Now, the reality is you could overwhelm it by giving it too much water and flour. And honestly, one of my concerns from the beginning was that we would grow too quickly and that we wouldn't be able to preserve the culture and build in the culture to the things that you guys just said moments ago. Love and kindness and giving and serving and family. Those are the things we want baked into the cake, right? Because as that happens, we believe as you've experienced that, you're going to then in turn give that away as people come. And that's part of what we've been trying to do here and build that. And I love that she asked that question, and those are the answers that you guys gave. Hopefully those made it on camera, because that's what we worked really hard at. It wasn't about raising a lot of money and getting a lot of building and getting a building, and those weren't our goals from the beginning. They will never be our goals. Our goals are going to be creating this culture of people that we're growing, that we are growing to change this community and to change this world. So I love it. Another few things that we have in our notes here is transparency. We try to be as open and honest about, we don't judge people. We just try to lead them. Our shirts say people in process. We try to lead people closer and closer to Christ. One of the things that we're trying to build into our culture and our ethos, and Justin and Vanessa were here earlier today, is when we get to spend time together, God does good things. When we have conversations, and people are really good, Justin wrote in the notes, I think, that we're really good at sticking around after to help tear down. And 80, 90% of us stick around until after, and then a whole bunch of us actually go to lunch, and we want to do that even better too. But the before service time would be also a great time. We would love if people were here 20, 30 minutes early, just praying with each other, talking about, hey, what's going on in your week? Let's prepare our hearts for what God might do. Let's pray together. Let's experience one another in friendship. We're set up don't worry, we won't put you to work. We're set up at least a half hour before time. So
I'm supposed to know.
The chairs are already here.
For Bart's sake, I'm supposed to plug that will be an opportunity we'll discuss next week.
Bart's exhausted.
Bart's exhausted.
Bart says he's exhausted. So one of the things we're trying to build, and Melissa's here nearly every week, 15, 20 minutes early and running around. And it's really good to build those relational bonds. Those relational bonds are what are going to be that carries us forward. So I love doing our camping trips because you guys get to know each other. And then I start finding out how you guys are serving one another. It's like, oh, Shireen came over and offered to watch our kids or take them to the fair. And I'm like, oh, great. Don't polish your halo too much right there. No. But
where's my offer? I'm still waiting for it. Dude, I have 2 kids.
She only likes the Browns. But hearing you guys serve each other, hearing that, several of you guys I know have invited each other over for dinner at your homes, and it's like, wow, it just makes I wasn't even involved with it, but when I find out about it, someone posts on Facebook, hey, thanks, went over to dinner there. I was like, how cool that this thing is coming together bit by bit, Anything you guys have to say about the culture or something? You guys are fairly new. Something you've experienced, what you like about it, what needs to change? Or
I think for me, I grew up in a church. I grew up in a large church my entire life. And so for me, adopting a new culture was really difficult. And it was a little uncomfortable, to be honest. I never experienced building a church every Sunday, right? Like putting out chairs, every single thing you see here is set up by somebody. And so growing up, that was never an experience I had. And so when we started coming here, Justin was like, we're doing it. Like he was like all in, and I kind of had to like tiptoe behind, like, we'll see, I'll take it week by week because it was a new thing. And so that might not be your story. You may not have grown up in a church, but maybe being in church at all is uncomfortable. Maybe being around people who are like in your face, they want to give you a hug and they want to, talk. And maybe you're like, this is just not my thing. I challenge you to just give it a chance, give it an opportunity, see what God does in this uncomfortableness, right? See what God does in this opportunity that may feel a little different, that may feel a little intimidating or awkward. Because I feel like there's such good things that happen when we challenge ourselves to grow and challenge ourselves to kind of sit in that uncomfortableness a little bit and just see like, hey, there could be really cool, valuable friendships that develop or opportunities for you to be able to help somebody. But it's because you show up early and you're talking and you're helping. And even if you don't want to talk, but you can lay out some little cards with pens on them, if you're just here, right? If you're here, you're showing up and you're present, God does something with that. And over time, you start to realize that like it becomes a little less weird. It becomes a little less intimidating. It becomes a little less difficult to put yourself out there. And there's such cool growth that happens within you and then within this culture overall that we're trying to develop. And so I think for me, diving into something that was new was hard at first, but now I'm like realizing like, gosh, this is such a huge opportunity where what I grew up in was
Already established.
It was established. It was, it was just very easy, right? This is a not so easy place.
Yeah, true.
It's not easy, right? And it's, but I love it. And I hope that we all get to that point where we like love the difficult. We love the challenge. Because I think we're all going to be better for it.
And I do want to, something that she said is to show up. God can only do so much, but if you don't show up, how is he going to do that? It takes showing up. And we don't do the Sunday night and the Wednesday night and the Bible studies and this, that, and that. We're not that church. Someday we might have some extra things when we're big enough, or when that person, or you step up and say, you know what, I'm feeling called to lead this women's Bible study. We're going to meet every 2 weeks. More power to you. I would love to be a part of that. Girl, I don't have time to lead it. And that's truth. But if you don't show up, you can't be a part of this culture and build those relationships. All you have to do right now is just show up, and show up consistently. And look and see, just showing up consistently, look and see what God can do in your life, a part of this family, and see where it goes from there. To me, that's step one.
Yeah, one of the
up.
problems, one of the things that makes it uncomfortable, this small thing uncomfortable and being transparent, is we live in a culture where we're not transparent. We live in a culture where we're very opaque and we hide everything and we tell everybody that we're good, and all of a sudden, like, people are like, what was going on there? What happened to them? I thought they were in good health. And, it's like, no, they were faking it the whole time. And in our culture, not our church culture here, but even in church cultures that I've grown up in, it's like we want to tell people, oh, hey, it's all good. I'm blessed. I'm blessed of the Lord. I'm the head and not the tail. I can tell you all these funny things that you hear in church. And the reality is, it's not true. I know because I live life and you live life, and I know that tax bills come and people die and people get sick and your children are bullied at school, and I know it's difficult, and we can't all say that life is good all the time, and we know this. But so coming someplace like this where I say this every week, let us take a step forward. That step forward is out of our comfort zone a little bit more. Maybe when you first start meeting someone, I call it hug time because I like hugging people. I think hugging is an intimate thing and it brings people into family. But I know I try not to hug people the first time because it could be awkward, right? If they're not ready to hug, they're not ready for a hug, that's fine. I'm going to hug Robert, though. I've hugged him before. I tried to kiss him this morning, but he ran away. So, I hadn't seen him for a while. But we want you to be conscientious of that. But if you're uncomfortable with that, good. Deal with it. step forward a little bit further. You know, if you show up late because you intentionally don't want to be here 15 minutes early and have to have a conversation, that might be the step that God is calling you to so that you can experience the freedom he's trying to give you to get past those insecurities or, you know, whatever that is. It's like once you become comfortable with people, and here's the reality, you only get comfortable with people by spending time with
People.
Well, they're smart up here. You only get comfortable with people by spending time with people. Exactly. And it doesn't have to be all people all at once. Identify somebody in this group that maybe you on the camping trip had a conversation that kind of a little bit piqued your interest. And give that person a chance. Go a little bit further in relationship there. And that will open the door to another relationship. They'll probably invite you into a place where 2 or 3 people are there. And now you start to get, it's like when you get in a cold pool, or we live at the ocean, right? It's never warm here. It's always like 65 degrees, 63 degrees. It's kind of cold at first. But once you put your feet in the water, it's like, oh man, a little bit later, it's like, oh, it kind of feels warm on my skin, actually. It acclimated to that. It was uncomfortable at first, but we'll become comfortable to it. So I want you guys to know that we created this culture for a reason, and it is the hard steps that we need to take that lead us into where God wants to bring us. But we have to be willing to take those steps. God will not force you into those positions. I want to roll into the next one. This one, Justin will probably have something to say about.
Yes.
The second topic I want to talk about is inviting. Most all of our growth has come from people inviting others. You know, Kelly came and invited Lori, and Lori invited Melissa, and Melissa invited Julio and Maggie and her sister and Crystal, and, you know, it's like all these people just inviting, and then, you know, Shireen starts coming, and then Ashley comes, and then Carmela, and it's like, wow, so people are inviting because they're experiencing something that they like, and they want their friends to be a part of that. Now, the reality is I know a lot of unchurched, de-churched people will never come through these front doors right here, so we try to use our serves to create side doors and opportunities. And that's something that's going to dovetail in with our social media, where we're going to try to be ahead of time and give a way for you to invite people to come down to our serve, because handing out donuts and popcorn and popsicles or whatever at the beach at a cleanup is it's not always about serving just our community. It's creating a place where people can come and give a little bit of their life and get to know a few of these people and go, wow, that's kind of cool. Change their mind on church, on God maybe. Wow, they weren't just handing out tracts down there. They were just doing something kind. I kind of like those people. What are they doing next? They're doing a Halloween thing? Yeah, I might be part of that. So we're trying to build a culture of inviting and creating side doors into this gathering eventually. Invitation, they say like 94% of people who join a new church come as from word of mouth, an invitation from somebody else. It's huge. Justin, you probably got a little bit to say about inviting.
I do. So how are people going to show up if we don't invite them? Okay, and so that's a step.
Right.
If 95% of people show up because they're invited and we're not inviting others, then that's a bunch of people that are never going to come and may never know God and may never see how great the Bible is and may never meet these great people that are here.
You great people.
You great people.
Yeah.
We were invited a few times, and Jeremy, invited us to come, and Amanda and Bart invited us for Jeremy's birthday one year, and we kept getting invited, and he'd invite us to come speak, and
I had to invite Vanessa to come speak to suck her in. That was nice.
And it was about a year ago. We came and spoke about finances and giving and how you can't outgive God and giving of your time and your talents and your treasure. And we're here and we're like, man, this is a great group. And this is you guys actually live out what the Bible tells us to do and what God tells us to do. And we're thinking, we go home and we talk and we're like, why don't we come here? So we started praying about it. We started thinking about it, and we're like, "It's good enough for them. Why is it good enough for us? We should be here too." But it took a lot of invites for us to change our minds on what we wanted our church to be like, and what we wanted our church experience to be like.
It took a lot of invites, and we are church people. Does that make sense?
Right.
Imagine your friends and family and neighbors that don't go to church, that have never gone to church or experienced something like this, imagine how many times it's going to take for them to be like even open to the idea of coming to a place on a Sunday morning. And so I think that's, for us, it took the invite, it took that, but then also I think for me, it took experiencing it. Like when we I think one of the first things we did was a serve down at the beach. And I remember just kind of, I mean, I knew no one, and just kind of sitting back and just observing. And I was like, there is no way these people are enjoying themselves. Like, there is no way that they are this happy to be out here, like, and just doing this, you know, for random strangers. Like, it took me experiencing like what life was like here amongst this church, amongst these people, amongst you, for me to start to realize, like, I want that. You know, I wasn't getting that. We weren't getting that at a bigger church that we were going to. It was just show up, sit down, open your Bible, listen, and then peace out for lunch, you know? And coming here, it was like people know me, they talk to me, they love my son. Like, there was just a difference in like the family that we felt here. And that is what hooked us. I mean, it hooked Justin way before it hooked me, but I realized, like, this is what we're missing. We're missing this family that we get to do life with.
That's key. Whether people know it or not, they want to belong somewhere.
Absolutely.
And they want to belong somewhere where they're needed, and where they're a part, and where they have something to invest and give. And that very thing is what gives back to them. Because as human beings, we feel worthless when we don't do anything. So like I hear in politics, I hear people saying, oh, we're going to have to give people money because the robots are going to take over. And I'm like, that's a bad idea. That's a recipe for disaster. Why? Because you don't want a lot of people disenchanted with their life. You don't want a lot of people thinking, it doesn't matter whether I breathe today or tomorrow, whether I go outside or I stay inside, whether I have a conversation or not. If I don't matter, what's the point of living? And when you can build a community like this where people belong, and then we're encouraging them to give of themselves, like, we need your ideas, we need your labor, we need your penmanship, we need your artistic nature, we need your gifts, we need what God designed you uniquely to do and to be, or we can't advance in any area. We will not advance. I'm not going to pay people so that this church can do more. I'm literally comfortable with this being no larger than it is right now, but getting you guys invested in what we're doing. But the reality is, we said that when there were like 4 people sitting in the seats right there, and that was all of us. And then I was like, can't we just have the kids in here too, so I'm not just preaching to 4 people? And the reality is, things have changed. Why? Because you guys are buying into, this is a place where we need to belong. This is where I need to put down roots. There's people to do life with here. People need me. This church needs me to be a part of what's going on here.
If I could just add to that, how do we invite people? Okay, so it's not like it's got to be a pressure thing where we're like, hey, you need to go to church, or hey, we're doing this thing, you got to come. You don't have to be like this crazy, like, inviter. And how Jeremy did it with me, he just talked to me and just let me know what the church was doing.
Not on social media, though.
Not on social media. It was in real life. It was face to face, or it was over the phone. I mean, we've been friends for like 15 years, and I just call him up and be like, hey, how's it going? What's going on in your life? And he'd tell me about his family, he'd tell me about the church, he'd tell me about what's going on, and it'd kind of just be like, hey, by the way, if you guys ever want to come out, we're doing this thing. And it was just real soft and real friendly and real inviting. And I kept thinking, yeah, we can go do that beach cleanup. Yeah, we can go do that. Or, maybe we can do that thing on Halloween, or maybe we can do the Operation Christmas Child, or something that the church is doing, because we were part of a big church and we didn't feel like we were really doing a whole lot other than showing up 5 or 10 minutes late so we'd miss the singing, and maybe leaving early because we thought our son needed us to leave early. And
so you get out of the parking lot faster.
So we got to the parking lot faster,
Beat the
so
lunch crowd.
we were
Before
those
there was
people.
a line.
When my dad started bringing me to church, we went to a big giant church, and we'd show up 15 minutes late so we'd miss the singing. We'd leave 15 minutes early so we'd miss more singing, or miss the offering, or miss whatever, because get out of the parking lot early. And that was perfect for us at the time. People didn't know if we were there or not. So we went to a big giant church, and what I realized after going to a few different churches is it's fun to get involved. It's fun to make friends, and it's fun to meet people, and it's fun to build relationships. And that's more fun for us than going and not knowing anybody and not building relationships and having nobody know whether you show up or not. And so this is very different than some of the big churches that I've been to or Vanessa's been to, but it's better, and we think it's better. And so we're starting to talk to people, and we're starting to invite others. And sometimes it takes a lot of invites. And
A couple years. Sometimes it takes a couple years.
I was talking to a guy last night. He was complaining about something. I could just tell, like, hey, we got church tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and you should come if you're interested, you know, and we're going to be talking about what's important to us.
And part of the inviting is when you absorb our culture, and I talk about bleeding it, when you're out in your day-to-day lives, you're showing it. So there are so many people that Bart and I are connected with in the community, and some of them have started coming to this church just because we were bleeding our culture. And some of them are continually asking me questions like, hey, when's your next serve? Or what are you guys up to now? Like, they know why we're here, why we moved here, what we're doing, what we're about. And they're just kind of like, they waver. And some of these conversations have been going on for a couple years.
Yeah.
But I know in God's timing, he will bring them in as long as I continue to show God's love to them. And I continue to be open and throw out there, hey, yeah, this weekend we're doing this serve, so that's why we can't XYZ or things like that. And a lot of them are, I like to sleep in on Sunday mornings. Well,
Right.
go you still can. We don't start till 10. Most of
But
you
then we'll
are
ask
already
you to come
awake.
early and hang out.
Yeah, it's totally okay. Roll out in your jammies. Put on some flip-flops, preferably not the slippers. You can still come. We will still hug you. Please brush your teeth. That's my only request. Like, you don't even have to brush your hair. Just please brush your teeth, and we will give you a hug, and we will still welcome you. So some of it is just bleeding the culture in your everyday life.
So the why we want to grow this way is because we believe when we connect with people relationally and they come for the relationship, not just the big event, Easter, Christmas, whatever it is, whatever the push is, our newest series, our petting zoo that we're putting on in the parking lot, or whatever that is. When you invite people to attraction, they enjoy the attraction, and then they don't want to stick around. When you invite people into life and doing life together, if they make the decision to come for that reason, it's why they end up sticking around. So we're willing to do it that way. And one of the sneaky things that my wife and I have talked about is, now that we're invested in the school, is inviting our kids to invite their kids to come and let their kids come. We'll bring them. We'll pick them up and bring them. That's exactly, Melissa did that with Julio's kids. She started bringing them before they ever came. And it was great because it's like, hey, kids want to be around other kids. They want something to do on Sunday morning. And they are. And then they're learning about Christ. And they're learning how to, they're learning about this church. And then the parents, if we did anything right, then the kids go home and I want to go back to church, right? And how many times will kids beg you to do something once they have it in their mind?
Like 100.
Stop.
Like 100,000 until
They
you
don't
do it,
stop.
essentially. So, yeah, it's another one of those ways. Hey, if you know kids, bring the kids. And honestly, there's probably more kids back in there than there are in this room right here. We've been fairly successful that way.
Just a little on that side note on that. When I took like Lakeview's school supply baskets, I had a bunch of them up, and we were delivering them the day before school. Half the adults and the kids that delivered the supplies that we paid for and put together were not Activate people. But they saw what we did, they thought it was awesome, and they wanted to help be a part of that. And I gave them that moment. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about the work that we put into it. But if that 7-year-old wants to be the kid that delivered that school supplies basket that's not a part of us, that is a seed that's planted. And that's part of a slow process of inviting and bringing them in.
And when I show up to the school now, because we've been invested in this school, and Amanda's doing a great job leading their PTO and investing and getting the hooks in there. When I come around now and they find out I pastor the church that she's part of, and they ask questions about our church, like, why are you guys doing this? And where do you get all the money to do this? And even the principal said, I said, hey, we want to do some more things this year. Can we meet and talk about those things? She goes, you guys are already doing so much. Like, where's all the money come from, you know? And it's because nobody else does anything for the school. They have to beg, borrow, and steal. And the reality is we're saying we want to take ownership here. Why? Because there's hundreds of kids and hundreds of parents and hundreds and dozens of teachers and staff that we can impact and move them one step closer to Christ as a result of what we do by doing our good things. It's what I quote all the time. Let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and give God the glory.
I can't tell you how many random text conversations, phone calls that I get that are, will you please pray for me? People in the school, because I've been there and I'm investing and I'm giving them my life, and that's our ministry, part of a big ministry in my family right now. And it's just, this is what's going on. I need your prayers. And that's what we're about.
Yeah.
That is what we are about.
Yeah, I believe, when those people are ready, and we're going to get better at inviting them to our serves and things like that. And that's why we don't make our serves super religious either, because we want people who are not super religious to feel like they can be a part of something without having to buy into all of your doctrine or whatever is going on. Again, it's a side door into what we're building here. Let's move on. We're going to move on to, let's hit new guests real quick, and then we'll move into social media, and you can wrap it up. The experience before service, I've cringed at least 36 times since we started 4 years ago, because guests will come in 10 or 15 minutes early, and it's like me and my dad and Bart and maybe Louie standing here, you know. Maybe 10 minutes before, maybe 5 minutes before, sir. The countdown might be going, and guests are beating we into here. And it's awkward when somebody comes into a place where nobody is. And I'm almost like, our people show up, they'll be here. We didn't put all these chairs out for nothing. But it's awkward when people come into that. And I want them to have that minute or 2 or 5 to meet you before, you know, so it's not, so the hug time maybe even isn't so awkward. It's like, oh, hey, I'll just go talk to them for another minute or so before we move on. So having you guys here, having that a guest experience, I think about this. I mean, I've just cringed sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, no one's here. I'm sorry they're late this week. But we'd love to have you guys here by 9:40 or so if start time was 9:40 for us. Like, hey, we're on the team, guys. We're on the team. We'd love to have you here at 9:40. 9:40 isn't early. It's not like 7:40 when I'm getting here. So I'm only asking you to be here 2 hours later than Bart and I are getting here. So, and Gino and Gary and whoever else is here early in the morning. So if we can start that early, I mean, fantastic. If they can come into a lively community and it's like inviting for them, that's great.
You brought up team. This is like a team.
Yeah.
You guys ever been part of a sports team? If the game started at 10 and you showed up at 10:05, you would
Not play.
not play, right?
You would
Like,
not play.
when I played hockey growing up, the coach said you got to get there an hour before, and we drove from Huntington Beach to Norwalk to get there an hour before practice started, an hour before the game started. And I talked my mom to getting there an hour and a half so I can be the first one there. And then I became an adult, and I don't know, I got busy, and my priorities shifted to sleep or TV or video games or something in the morning. And
It's 5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes.
man, our last church started at 9, and we show up between 9:05 and 9:15. And we're like, man, if we go to this church starts at 10, activate, that's better, right? We can get there on time for sure. And for a long time, we were showing up between 10:05 and 10:15. And
You should have told yourself 9:15. You would have made it here, and you'd be golden.
Jeremy found the trick because now he recruited Justin to help us set up. So we get here early.
I didn't even
now.
recruit him to help set up. He came on his own.
Trust
I
me,
didn't
it's been a good thing. It's been
He
Justin
invited
saw
me
the
to come at
need.
8
Thank
to
you
help
for
set
seeing
up.
that
Did I?
need, Justin.
I don't
You saw the
remember.
need.
so he invited me to come at 8. I started showing up at 8:30.
Ish.
8:40. Today we got here at 9, but I got the whole family here at 9. Sometimes I had to leave
That
my
is,
family at
woo,
home
good
so I
job.
could get here early to set up.
I'm
But
not here that early.
when the goal is 8, I get here before 10. Okay, so if that's you, maybe set a goal of getting here at 8 to help set up. We could use the help. It turns out the guy giving the message maybe shouldn't be putting out chairs. Okay, maybe he can't give the best message if he's focused on chairs and tablecloths and books and banners and cords and cables. And maybe we want a better message. We could help out.
Maybe we can let someone else teach. That's what we
don't
could
know.
Oh, amen, brother.
It's coming from a good
Preach.
place. I don't know if it
Preach.
sounded good, but it's coming from a
do.
good
It did.
place.
It did.
So
I
that's
like
what
it.
works for
I
me
like it.
lately. Okay, have a goal showing up at 8. So I challenge you. I encourage you. Come early. Help out.
I've been really bad about this too. I mean, I'll out myself. Here's this
Amen.
transparency.
She's preaching right now. I'm amening. Amen.
I'm not good. My husband is here at like 8:15, and he's been doing
Party.
it for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, every week. I struggle to get here, which now one kid a lot of times by 9.
Mind you, she makes it to school on time every other day of the week.
I do. I get distracted, and I'm like, oh, it's so quiet. I'm going to do laundry. I'm going to do my dishes. And
I'm going to start dinner.
But I have to I do all the things all week, but I have to retrain myself too. I recognize that's not good. That's not a good way for me to start the morning with y'all. For me to start the morning of leaving the kids in the back is rushing in at 5 or 10 minutes till we're supposed to be here. That's not good for me. I feel rushed. I feel hectic. I didn't get my focused prayer in. I'm like, kids, let's get out the door. I don't care that you don't have shoes on. Like, you're bad. You've had 2 hours. Yeah. Like, come on, you know all the things. So we need to consciously make the effort. And when I say we, I do mean me too, to make this a priority. This is not an 8 o'clock work time. This is not a 7 o'clock. This is not you have to leave by 6. 9:40. Realistically, most of you are already awake. So it's just getting out of bed, y'all.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. This is only, I don't care what time you get here. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I want you to be here because I know the great things that happen when you guys get to talk with one another, when you get to do life and share life. I know how it makes me feel good when I get to see you 15, 20 minutes before service, because when it's over, I'm tearing down and we're getting ready to get out of here. And if you guys don't come to lunch, I see you when I'm up here, and I might have given you a hug. But the reality is, it's like, if this is the only time I get to see you during the week, I'm greedy. I want a little bit more time with you. I want to have a conversation. I want to know what's new in your life. I want to be able to pray with you. I want to be able to encourage you in those times. And I know there are other people who want to do those things too. So since these people are taking all the time we're going long, we're going to move on into social media. Hey, Amanda, by the way, I found on stage, I found your earring backer right here.
That's what I don't think that's mine.
Oh.
I'm not putting that on.
Own it. It's yours now. Spit on it.
No, thank you. That's not the right one.
So social media. So I'm going to preface this before we roll into it, and then I'll have Vanessa talk about social media more so, because like, I love social media for what it can be. I don't love doing social media. I just don't enjoy it. It's not something. I'd rather be at lunch with you, or having, walking at the beach, or hanging out, sitting around, have you at my house. I'd rather do that. Going to a USC game. I'd rather be doing those things, literally. But the reality is, before we get into social media, still, the best way to invite somebody to be a part of this community is what? And don't say Instagram. Is talking to someone, having a conversation. So we can help bring those things up, we're going to pick up our game on Instagram and on Facebook, and Vanessa's got some things to talk about there.
So I think social media kind of gets a bad rap, right? It's a generational thing for some people, and I think there's 2 ways to approach it. First, for everyone, I think it's practical. I think just from a practical standpoint as a church, it's a free method of advertisement, right? Which is huge. When you look at like the business side of how a church operates, to not have to pay for something that is so impactful and powerful and useful, that's a big deal. And so that's just an easy way for us to promote events, to share what's going on, to encourage, to just kind of be a presence amongst other people that don't really know who we are. And so I think practically that's just it's a no-brainer, right? And then it's also an opportunity for people who are, like I said before, maybe who are the like unchurched, unfamiliar, maybe a little intimidated of coming to church. Having an online opportunity to watch church is huge, right? And we're not the only one who thought this is a genius idea. Now all over America. There's churches that are live streaming and, putting up stuff on YouTube or websites throughout the week so that people that may not have an opportunity to come here or maybe just aren't ready yet to step into a church can still watch and experience what it is that we're all learning and growing through. So I think that is huge. So there are good positive benefits to social media or the internet. But then I think also it turns into like a relational thing. And so my biggest thing with social media is, and this can be a different message for a different day, but there's a sense of like, when you are unfamiliar with something, when you don't know it, or when you don't like it, or not even like it, but when you don't know it or you're unfamiliar, I think that the natural tendency for people is to just automatically decide, I don't like it. I don't like it. If it's new, if I don't know how to do it, if I don't know how to download the app, I don't like it, right? I just don't waste my time on that. And so I think, right. I mean, whatever it is, like it doesn't matter what the app is. If you find yourself in a place where you're unfamiliar, or if you're unaware of how certain things work, I think that the natural tendency is to just kind of put your hand in front and say, like, I don't need it, I don't want to do it. But just a little fact, it's not my opinion, last year alone, 244 million people were using social media. 244 million people take their phones out, right? And just in the United States,
yeah, just here.
244 million people used social media last year alone in 2018. So every single day, there's millions of people who are online and they're connecting in some kind of platform. So for us as a Christian family to decide, I don't like that, is a lost opportunity, right? Do we see that? So I think for today's sake, I think I just want to challenge everyone to kind of shift your perspective of what social media is. Is it a time waster? Is it something that you can kind of be a little obsessed with, or you could kind of get sucked in, or like just run down a rabbit hole? Yes, right? There are lots of cute, funny videos that you can just lose time on. That's not the issue, or that's not what we're talking about. My point is, let's shift our perspective to utilize this opportunity that we have to connect with the millions of people who are on it already, right?
So even if you don't like it a lot, just go on there, make a lot of friends, and share our stuff.
Yeah, just share.
And then you can go it all.
Essentially, here's your challenge. So if you are someone that you're like, I don't know that I can come on a Sunday morning early. I don't know that I can talk to a bunch of people. I don't even know that I can like pick up my phone or like see someone and say, hey, can you come to church with me on Sunday? But I have social media. I have Facebook. I can share a post that they post. I can encourage someone. I can put a verse out there and just leave it at that. There's ways that you could connect. So many people, I feel that we live in a culture where, outside of this church, where everyone is like all about being, like kind of what Jeremy was saying, like being very like surface level, very closed off, feeling disconnected, feeling like they don't belong, feeling lonely. And so then they jump on the internet, right? We know a lot of people who don't necessarily have great social skills, but they have a lot of online friends, right? And they have a lot of ways that they feel connected to people online. And so let's start to change what that looks like. If we could be a place where, I don't even have to tell you, I'm sure you guys are friends with a lot of people who know of people online who are negative, right? If you look on their page and all they do is complain and they're just draining, right? They just tell you all the negative, horrible things that happen every single day. If that is what is normal in your feed, then maybe this is an opportunity for you to be a breath of fresh air, right? For you to be something or someone that is encouraging, that is uplifting, that's positive, that doesn't necessarily overshare all your drama, but you are quick to encourage. You don't jump in and like start to negatively add to like all the chats that are going on and like the community forums and stuff. Yeah. But instead you're offering a place to give some hope. You're offering some encouragement or an opportunity to share something good, and I think there's a huge opportunity if we shift our perspective towards social media. And I'm not promoting like, please spend all your time, all your free time, get on your phone, like do all these things. That's not what we're about. That's not what I'm about. And I feel like social media is a great thing. I do feel that we need to start to, instead of just deciding we don't like something or I don't, it's a waste, to shift the perspective of, hey, this is an opportunity. This is one more way for us to connect to somebody who needs to be encouraged that day, for somebody who needs to be invited, right? Who needs to just see like, hey, there's an opportunity to go and do something good, because there's good in everybody. And we're all a little bit like inclined to crave that. So if we share a serve event that they can come and be a part of, what a cool way to just be that link, right? You don't have to necessarily be a social media guru, and I'm not challenging everyone to like download all the apps and be obsessed, but be a link and use an opportunity like social media to do that.
And I'll just finish off with this, I think, and then we'll dismiss. We're getting a little bit late, these chatty people up here. But no, this is good stuff, though. The reason we're doing this is because we can have these conversations and hope that it trickles down into our culture and community, or we can have these conversations with everybody and say, guys, let's be about this. The thing I want to tag on social media is this. I have a lot of opinions, a lot. I got an opinion on nearly everything, and I'm learning to have opinions on fewer things, because in most things I can't even make a difference, and my opinion, all it does most of the time is repel people and push them away. So the more opinions I put out there that are not positive is more likely to push people away from me, which then, if my reputation is I'm about Christ and building his kingdom and his church, and I'm posting stuff that's negative all the time and putting my opinion out there about vaccines or, you fill in the blank politics or whatever it is, then people are going to look at me. Maybe they would want to come to one of our serves, but if I'm the one to invite them now, they're like, I don't want to be around that guy. All he's ever doing is trying to push his negativity on me. And I agree, and I believe the exact opposite of him. So if you look at, you can go back through my social media anywhere, go find anything. I don't put my opinions out there very often at all. I don't even do it here because I don't want to be a roadblock between you, because you're like, oh, he's one of those people. I liked him until I found out he believed in that. He's a flat earther, I'm not, by the way. I'm not a flat earther, but I think it's round. I've seen it skydiving with some of my besties in this very room. If you want to go, we'll probably do it again sometime in the near future.
Hang gliding's next.
What's it? Hang gliding is next. All right. So, but here's the reality. Be careful of what you put on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Be careful about what you're putting out there, because you can ruin your reputation that you're trying to create to lead people closer to Christ, because you're super hyper focused on flat earth or vaccines or whatever that is. And I just want to challenge you. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. You should probably not invest as much time at having an opinion on everything, because most of it is wasted energy. Use energy on things that are, what's the Bible say? Whatsoever things are good, holy, pure, righteous. Yeah, see, I'm not great at quoting scripture. That's why I have more. But on those things, think on these things. Okay? Put that out there into the world. Be the most positive version of yourself you can possibly be. And all that negativity, the more you feed it, the more we feed that wolf, the stronger it gets, the more you want to put that stuff on social media. And it just repels people. So don't put that stuff out there. Put all the positive stuff out there. Nobody gets turned away by that. You're not going to turn someone away because you're like, hey, we're going to go make a difference in this world. Would you join me? Nobody's going to be like, nah. There's a couple curmudgeons out there that would be that way. But the reality is, most people aren't that way. They'll just go, oh, I don't have time for that. But they're not going to jump into a thread and 118 posts later after you do battle and nobody wins. Guess what? Nobody ever wins online in a Twitter thread or in a Facebook thread.
And then unfollow you.
And then you're just going to unfollow that person anyways. And then they're going to unfollow you. And now your witness, your invite is null and void with that person. So what I'm saying, I think God would be saying to us, don't be a roadblock to keeping people from his kingdom and from his culture. Be somebody who builds bridges. And on that note, I think we can wrap up today. We'll have a little more instruction next week. We're going to give opportunities of places that we really need help in these moments. But I'm going to throw Vanessa under the bus and let her do offering and dismiss us today, and then we'll clean up.
So offering, with the uniqueness of what I feel like, again, going back to the whole idea of like this being a place where this could be uncomfortable for some. I love how we do offering. Most people assume that when you go to church, like they're going to have a moment where it's like this nice song and they're going to ask you for your money and they're going to pass this around and it's very intimidating. But here at Activate, I feel like it's such a like very understood thing that if you come, there's no expectation, right? There isn't this pressure or this expectation that's put on you, which is great because I feel like that gives opportunity for you to understand God's heart behind giving, which is simple, right? You give of what he's given you, right? And if you start to kind of get closer to the Lord, you start to feel more and more inclined to wanting to give. And if that doesn't necessarily make sense financially, you're giving of your time, you're sacrificing your sleep in the morning getting here early, right? You're sacrificing your comfort level by having a conversation with someone or liking a post on Facebook or whatever that looks like. You're challenging yourself. And so with giving, I feel like that's something that is such a cool, it's a cool new way of doing things here. So if you are in a place where you feel that, where you're feeling like it's something is stirring up within you, see what that looks like, right? Step in that. If it's giving of your time, if it's giving of the skills and the abilities that you have, if it's giving financially, God does amazing things with all that. But you just have to be obedient in that. There are opportunities for you to give financially, and you can find these little papers on the front and put it in the box. But yeah, walk in that challenge and be stretched in that. So anyway, let's pray. Lord God, we're so grateful. We're so humbled that you would just give us a place where we could own this, Lord, that we could be people that are in charge of something that is so much bigger than us, Lord. We're humbled that you would even give us a place to team up alongside of you. Lord, we are broken people. We're people that are a mess, and we're always trying to figure out what's better and what's good and how to do life. And Lord, you still choose to use us. So we thank you for that. We thank you for just places where we could serve, opportunities for us to give, new ways to grow as a person and as a church and as a family. And so God, we just thank you. We thank you for what you're doing in our lives, Lord, what you're doing in this church. And God, we ask that you would continue to give us wisdom, give us creativity and insight, Lord, that we would have eyes that are open to opportunities, that we would have ears that are open to what it is that you're calling us and you're directing us to do, and that we would have hearts that are obedient to just walk forward in that, as intimidating or scary or new as that feels, that we would excitedly chase after the things that you put before us. God, we're so excited, Lord, as far as all the things that we have dreamed up and the things that we know that you could do through us. And so we ask that you would continue to make those things possible, continue to give us energy and that excitement, Lord, and give us boldness to bring new people alongside us and to invite people into this family. Lord, we love you and we thank you for this time and for this place and for these people. In Jesus' name, amen.